Hey y'all, I'm back and I have more creepy stories. I'm excited for this video because I can't necessarily relate to this because I don't babysit. This says, what's the scariest thing you've ever encountered while babysitting? In 2007, a friend and I, ages 17 and 13, were babysitting overnight at a large split-level home in the middle of nowhere. We had both babysat there many times in the past, and we used to not only care for a little girl, but her 90-something-year-old near catatonic grandmother as well. When we got there this time, however, we discovered that the grandmother had passed away a few months ago, and we would be staying in her room that night. This was weird to us, but they had somewhat revamped the small room and put in a new huge bed, which was more appealing than the couches we usually slept on. About an hour before it was time to get the little girl ready for bed, the sky had turned green and tornado sirens went off. Within minutes, the patio furniture was slamming against the sliding glass door, so we grabbed the kid and ran down to the very bottom level and hid down there until the storm blew over. Once we got the little girl down for the night, we hung out in the living room and did some crafting. Suddenly, every TV and radio in the house turned on full volume. We both scrambled around the house to turn them off as to not wake the kid up. The last device we turned off was this old radio the kid's grandmother had in her room that was blaring some creepy old song, and my friend made me go down there with her to turn it off. We ended up sleeping on the couches that night. Now looking back, I suppose it's possible it was some kind of electrical surge from the storm, but I will never forget how terrified we both were. No, I don't care. I don't care, because in my brain, dead grandma caused the tornado in the first place. I don't know why. I was babysitting my nephew and we walked to pick up a pizza from the place up the street. On the way back, this guy started following us. I noticed, but he was far enough away, it wasn't suspicious. When we got to the door of the apartment building, I went to unlock it and the guy started charging at us full speed. I opened the door just in time for us to get in and lock the guy out. He was hitting the window of the door yelling at us, "Come back, I just want to talk to you." It was really scary, so I called my parents and my dad came to pick us up, and my sister went back to our house after she was done with work and stayed the night. I just want to talk is insane when you're charging at someone. Like, I'm sorry, what on God's green earth is that important? Someone actually replied to that one and said, terrifying. This reminds me of when I was probably about 11 babysitting my 4-year-old cousin. She and I were just playing in the front yard of her trailer. My house was across the street. When down the dirt road came a white 90s sedan, very bland generic car. It didn't pull into our driveway but drove to the end of the road and turned around and parked on our side of the street. Two guys, pretty big but oddly stringy redneck types, were in the deep south, and they said they wanted to talk to us. I knew her front door didn't lock without a key, and I did not have the key. I shook my head and started walking towards the neighbor's door, who I knew was home. They kept calling at us and started walking towards us quickly. My little cousin was way too trusting and was tugging against my hand to go towards them. I just ignored them and started calling the neighbor's name. I wound up having to pick up my cousin and run to the neighbor's door. Thank God she had heard us and opened the glass door and the inside door for us and got us inside just as the guys pounded on the front door and the sides of the trailer. Like the tough lady she was, she grabbed her shotgun and cocked it, telling them to get a move on so she didn't have to use it. Called the cops, they went back to the car and drove up a couple houses, heard the sirens a few minutes later, and they left. But we very seriously almost got kidnapped. 21 years later, and I still get chills from that. I hate this world. This one? What? I was babysitting my female neighbor's daughter, who was also my friend. I was 12 and she was 6. We lived in the same apartment building. My cat was in their apartment. The apartments had wooden louvered, I don't know what the fuck that means, screen doors instead of glass and screen doors. The front door was open, but not the louvered door. My cat wants to go out. Black cat. He's at the door meowing. I'm sitting on the couch, playing with something on the coffee table, ignoring him. Then he says, my real name, let me out. Out loud. In English. In an adult male human voice, like a fucking Narnia animal or something. I look up at him and he was looking at me. I said, well, if you put it like that, okay. Because even at 12, I knew to haha, make a joke, don't offend whatever the fuck is happening here. I let him out while keeping my ears open for movement outside of anyone that could have said that. It was loud enough to have come from exactly where my cat was, and directionally came from there, not any place else in the apartment. Plus there was no adult male in the apartment. I could see through the lovers, in the window next to the door, and there was nobody outside. And once I opened the door, I didn't see anyone out there. Never heard running. And this was before baby monitors, 1983 or 84. Very weird. Has never happened again. I'm not Dr. Dolittle. It was just a strange event. Well, honestly, I would love if my cats talked to me, but I would also shit my pants. I have 2 younger brothers, and there was this week when we were little that my parents decided they wanted a vacation by themselves. They deserved it. We were a handful. We had an awesome family friend who happens to be a police officer that my parents asked if she could babysit us for the week. She was honestly the coolest babysitter as she was super chill and very lenient. Anyways, let us do stuff our parents forbid. We turned our room into a giant fort and we were all sleeping on one mattress. We were asleep though. She's in the living room and she said she came into our bedroom because she clear as day heard someone say her name. She comes in to check on us and we're passed out. She goes back out into the living room and hears her name again. She comes back in our room, turned on the light as she thought we were playing a trick on her. We're out like a light. She said she felt extremely uncomfortable after that and never stayed overnight again once my parents came back. The next story didn't involve babysitting, but was something extremely creepy my mom told me happened at our house. The same room actually that my babysitter heard her name. My mom's work schedule was pretty random. She would have random days off. Never a Saturday, Sunday type weekend. It would be like a Tuesday, Saturday type deal. She told me on a random Tuesday she was sitting in our living room doing some bills. She was sitting down, looking down at her checkbook, and she heard the floor crack by the hallway. She looked up and no shit said that standing before her was a Native American man in a full headdress. She said before she could react, he turned and walked down the hallway. From where she was sitting, there's an opening to the hallway, but the rest of it is blocked by a wall. She ran up and looked and nobody was there. My mom doesn't drink or do drugs and is actually a highly respected member of the community. Definitely not the type of person to make things up or lie. All of us were at school and my dad was in the service, stationed a few states away. Nothing explains what she saw. She never told us until we were older because she knew we would never sleep. And for it to like not look like a ghost, because from the way she describes it, it just looked like a like a person, like a real person. Oh my God. This happened to a work colleague. Him and his wife were babysitting for a friend at nighttime. They were sitting in the lounge room and both of them heard footsteps coming down the hallway and getting louder as it got closer. He immediately got up and looked into the hallway thinking that his friend was home early, but there was nobody there. He checked all the bedrooms, asked out loud if anybody was in the house. No reply. Their friends who they were babysitting for got back home a few hours later and they left as fast as they could as they were terrified. They remained friends but never visited that house again. No, because I'm so sorry to all my friends, but if anything like that were to happen to me, I'm not coming back either. I was babysitting my baby brother. He was about 1 and I was 12. This would have been in the late 90s. My mom and I had moved to live with my grandma into a house she recently bought. It was a very small town in the country and my grandmother learned about the history of the house very quickly. Years ago, there had been a fire at that house which burned the top level. My mom and grandma joked to me that I should like living there since it was rumored to be haunted. They thought this about me because I liked reading ghost stories and watching the TV show Are You Afraid of the Dark? I met a girl a few years older than me who used to live at that same house. She lived close by still, just down the road. She had told me that a little boy had died in the basement during the fire and her uncle had seen him sitting on his bed one night, along with other creepy happenings. I wasn't sure what to think, but what I did know was that the basement was creepy. It was unfinished in cement with long stairs. On the right at the bottom of the stairs was a room with a well in it. I was told to never open it due to safety, and since we all lived in the country, a well wasn't entirely uncommon, although I had never seen it before. Thank goodness the movie The Ring didn't exist yet. Why was I thinking that too? I'm like, that's the first thing that came to my head. Anyways, the basement was definitely somewhere I didn't want to be alone. There was one day I needed to get something out of a box down there and I asked my mom to come with me. It was daytime. All of a sudden we both heard a smash and there was a broken light bulb on the ground that had somehow unscrewed itself while we were down there. My mom ran up the stairs faster than I did. The scariest thing that happened though was when I was babysitting my brother and just heard a loud, abrupt stomping sound on the basement stairs. The basement had a door that was closed, so I couldn't see anything, but I can't begin to tell you how quickly I grabbed my brother out of his baby chair, ran out the front door, down the street to a neighbor's house. I waited there until my mom came home, but thankfully my mom found us our own place shortly after. I still wonder about the banging on the stairs and wonder what would have happened if I had stayed or opened the door. And I'm so glad you didn't. Hearing someone like run up the steps after you're told that like a child died in the basement, like... Well, my experience wasn't babysitting, but I was rocking my son to sleep when he was about 8 months old, had Patsy Cline playing on my phone and was singing to him. I felt a cold breeze from behind me, which I didn't take much notice of at the time because there was a window behind me. Checked the next morning, it was shut. About a minute after the breeze, I heard a deep guttural growl from behind me. I jumped up and ran out of the room while holding my son. I calmed down and went to put my son in his cot. Then as I went to get into my bed, I was checking the baby monitor because I had an alert pop up saying movement was detected. I can't talk today. When I opened the app, I saw a white figure standing over my son in his cot. It was like toddler height. I went to check on my son. He was fine, but after that night, he always stayed with me. My partner and I heard another growl a few nights later while sitting on the couch. I've always seen and heard things, but for my partner to have heard it as well really validated my experience. I was thinking that too. Because I'm so sorry, how do you explain to someone that you heard someone growl at you? Without sounding absolutely insane. So I'm glad I heard it too, even though I wish neither of you had heard it. This one's really short, but it says, kid asking me where the dark lady is going, and no one but me was in the house, and I'm a man. I don't want to know who the dark lady is, and I don't give a fuck where she's going as long as she leaves. I was in my first year at uni, and we hadn't been able to get digs, so we lodged with a family. They were pretty open about the house being haunted, but I hadn't really experienced anything. Cue the parents go out one night and their 8-year-old is upstairs in his room. Me and my maid are downstairs watching TV. We hear children's footsteps running up the stairs, so I call out and say, bedtime, buddy. About 10 minutes later, we hear the same thing, and I go upstairs into the room and I said, okay, buddy, it's past your bedtime, stop messing around. The kid looked at me and said, it wasn't me. So I said out loud to the room, okay, it's past your bedtime, and don't make me tell you off. The whole atmosphere changed in the room. It went icy cold and I could see my breath. The kid put his head under the duvet. Well, obviously I am slightly perturbed, I don't know how to say that, by this, and I say out loud, no, I'm not having any temper tantrums. Out before I throw you out myself. I heard these footsteps walk straight past me and out of the room, and the atmosphere went back to normal. I told the parents what happened, and apparently just before we moved in, the neighbor's son had been killed in a hit and run. They had been close friends, and the parents had heard him occasionally talking to someone. Oh my God. As daft as it sounds, I just rolled with it, didn't outwardly show any fear. If things ever got boisterous in the house, I would literally call out and it would stop. Like and he's just and he listens, like he's a good boy. My mother was apartment searching, so I came with her to watch my brother and view the houses as well. I was 13 at the time, my brother was 5. We went to view an apartment in the army barracks as they were cheaper for bigger apartments. My mother went outside with the landlord to discuss things, and my brother and I were playing upstairs. Note, the apartment was 3 floors, basement, main floor, and upstairs bedrooms. I decided to go downstairs into the kitchen to view some things. In the kitchen was the basement door. I hear running up the basement, thinking it was my brother. I yelled, calm down, this isn't our house. My brother emerged from the living room, which was next to the kitchen, and asked me why I was running up the steps. I just looked at him. I had asked him if he ran downstairs to the living room, and he said, no, I was just sitting on the couch. He looked at me and asked me where I was, and I said the kitchen. We both heard those steps running up the basement. It was so loud we could hear it from multiple rooms. We ran outside to Mom together and begged to leave. She asked us what the problem was. We told her and we left. I'm so happy she believed us. I'm so happy she believed you. I knew my cousin's house was kinda haunted. Kids are down for a nap. I'm in a kinda sitting position on my knees looking into the window that would also look into the doorway of my nephew's room. I very clearly saw a little girl in a pink nightgown in the doorway. She looked to be 8. The kids were in a deep sleep. I turn around and there's nothing there. Bye. When I was 13, I babysat a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old girl at this really nice house in the country. It had floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room on both sides. Put the kids to bed and went to the living room to chill. It was storming pretty bad and the power went out. I didn't have a flashlight or know my way around well. It was 2006, so didn't have a cell phone either, but managed to find a lighter in the junk drawer. I decided to just go to bed since there wasn't anything I could do. Went to bed and I heard banging on the door. Parents weren't supposed to be back till the next day, so I was scared. Used my lighter to find my way upstairs and realized that I could be seen through all the windows, so I stopped using it and crawled to peek out the window. Nobody was there. Then I heard banging on the window from the room I was just sleeping in. I was so scared at this point. I crouched and hid behind the counter and tried to figure out what to do. Then more banging on the door and the phone rang. I answered it and it was just the neighbors. They were checking to see if I was okay because the power went out, so they had been told I was babysitting. So in the end it was nothing, but it scared me. I hate them because what the fuck? Why would that not scare you half to death? Call first. Call me first. So one time I was babysitting these 2 little boys. They were about 1 and 3 at the time. The 3-year-old had a little music player in his room for when he would go to bed. I already had the 1-year-old asleep and just put the 3-year-old to bed. I go downstairs and I'm just playing on my phone. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, I hear a man's voice coming from upstairs where the kids are. I bolt upstairs and there's no one there, but I still hear the man's voice. I'm outside the 3-year-old's door and I hear what seems to be the man and the little boy talking. I go and check on the 1-year-old who's still asleep. I finally get the courage to go into the 3-year-old's room, and once I open the door, the talking stops and the little boy is fast asleep. The music player was playing a soft melody. I go and turn off the music and leave his room and go downstairs again. Once again, I hear the man's voice. At this point, I'm terrified and calling my friends for help. Shortly after the parents get back, I still have no idea who or what it was. Never told the parents as I thought they would think I was crazy, but never ended up going back there. The fact that you heard like a conversation, was it the little boy talking or was it, I don't know. They said what seems to be the man and the little boy talking, but he was asleep. So there was a man and a child toddler ghost? I don't know, and I don't care. Kids were asleep when the front door started rattling like somebody was trying to get in. I was so petrified I didn't move. At first I thought it was the foreign exchange student they had living with them in their basement, but he had a back door they said he usually entered through, and this was the front door. And plus, I actually heard him come home around 40 minutes later. Don't know if it was necessarily paranormal, but I was definitely scared. It didn't help that the baby swing randomly started swaying slightly without it being turned on. No, because the door trying to open, nope, that would be the last straw for me. I'm leaving the kid and I'm getting out. Okay, that's all I'm gonna read for now. I know I said in the beginning of this that this video doesn't necessarily affect me, but I'm scared and I don't babysit and I'm never going to, because fuck your haunted kids and your haunted houses. If you guys have any scary, I don't know, babysitting stories that you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. I am gonna go, however, because I'm trying to get ahead on videos, and so I'm probably gonna batch film videos today. I always feel better when I'm ahead on videos versus like doing all the work the week of, because that overwhelms me. But for some reason, like getting a shit ton done in 1 week doesn't. My brain doesn't make sense. So I'm trying to get a bunch of videos filmed so that I can be ahead and not have to be stressed all the time. So I'm gonna go. I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next one. Bye.